So Philip, do you want to start by telling us what's been going on with this Telford inquiry that was in the news today?
Well, this is just staggering in its scale. The Telford inquiry it's not surprising. It's essentially authorities, the police, frightened of intervening in what is child abuse, rape, and children have died as well. And the numbers are in their thousands, and it's been going on for 30 years, okay, in Telford, and they've constantly turned a blind eye to this. That this can happen is just utterly appalling. But the really interesting thing to me is that this is news, and this is big news, but on all across social media that we've just been talking about, the identitarian left are completely silent about it. Mm-hmm. So it was a conspiracy of silence that resulted in rape, abuse and death, and that conspiracy of silence is continuing. Yeah. And that is absolutely appalling.
That's an interesting point, that actually the fact that a lot of these girls, all of these girls, didn't see justice, weren't listened to. One of the reasons was because the police didn't want to be seen as racist, which is the same as we saw in Rotherham. They didn't want to cause disruption within the Muslim community, so they just decided, in order to, not be accused of racism, that they were just going to let these girls suffer. That actually that is taking place on a kind of meta level in society at large, that we're still not talking about this properly. It's not in the news properly. This has been going on since the 1980s at least, and none of this gets discussed because people are afraid that if they discuss it, they'll be called right wing.
It's always the way, not just with grooming gangs, but with any kind of atrocity that happens. If there's a bombing or something like that, then there's this pause, isn't there? And then if it's some kind of Combat 18 right-wing nutter, there's this kind of exhale and everybody can have a go. And then if it's not, if it's an Islamist extremist, then all of those people are silent. And it's like a cancer at the heart of the culture. We really need to address it.
Does this get much attention within Parliament?
No, I mean, I've mentioned it. There's no opportunity to mention it. There's a debate that I'm involved in tomorrow on, women and girls in society, and I'm going to make it the focus. I only get a few minutes, but I will make it the focus of it. And I'm going to make the point that I can't believe it's not the talk of the town, or, that we're not talking about it. I think it goes beyond. I mean, the grooming gang scandal does get to the heart of the point that we've just been discussing, which is industrial scale sexual abuse of largely white working class girls who nobody cares about, right? Nobody gives a damn about, who were either not believed or they didn't matter sufficiently. The perpetrators, because they were from the Asian community, it wasn't just and specifically parts of the Muslim community. They actually explicitly in the Oldham inquiry report didn't just say that people didn't intervene because of racism. They said they didn't intervene because they didn't want to encourage far-right Islamophobia. So you've got a kind of conscious political intervention by the authorities. Well, if we intervene, then this will be used by the Tommy Robinson types, and
a value judgment there about people. So who can we just throw away? Is it this person A or is it person B? It's person B. Let them be the victims, and
to allow actual wrongdoing justified by imagined wrongdoing.
Exactly, but also the point that you were making about, for example, if there's a Islamist terrorist attack, when you say there's silence, but there's also lectures about how people are not to be Islamophobic. So it's like you end up being told off for being furious. It's like, I'm sorry, but
Oh, you're not allowed to be furious. You've got to look. You don't look back in anger. Don't look back in anger.
So I think that it becomes a critique of, again, the British working class, and the British working class is largely white because we're in the UK, but it's not wholly white. I mean, that also really irritates me, right? Because like everybody should be furious about this, and many people are furious about this, regardless of ethnicity. But it's completely sidelined, and the point about it is their discussion in Parliament. I'll tell you what, you know, Parliament gets carried away with the Westminster Village, the political elite, Me Too stories, right? Pestminster, you know, endless.
They're more interested than an MP looking at pornography on their phone rather than girls getting raped.
So-and-so's raped, all terrible things, right? You know, but we endless reams of comment on widespread systemic misogyny in Whitehall than there is about the fact, well, we know that these girls, they've been raped and you know about it and you won't even ask a question in Parliament.
It's interesting as well on the Me Too stuff that people so often talk about rape culture, but they will never talk about rape culture when it relates to a minority community. Everything is systemic except when it's something to do with a minority. Not that I'm suggesting that this is a systemic problem. I don't believe in things like that. I think
there's
that's
one
misleading.
There's one other point, isn't there? The identitarians will tell us that this country is the most racist country in the world and all the rest of it. And we know, don't we, from the way people react, the danger of being called racism. We know it's an absolute anathema to them. It's terrible.
Yeah, exactly.
That wouldn't be the case in a country that was racist.
Well, that's what's so ironic about this.
It's just completely ironic.
It's also the case, and this is very important, which is we should be able to have an open and frank conversation about why certain parts of communities believe that young white working class women are disposable trash.
Literally.
Can be dealt like
literally.
That. So that conversation should happen. But of course, what's more worrying is why did the councils, the teachers, the social workers, they ultimately created that? Because you can have a crisis about, oh well, that particular community over there, and so on and so forth. But what worries me is how come you can be in a situation whereby British institutions also think that these young women were disposable and
real victim blaming as well,
real victim blaming,
calling them child prostitutes.
Yeah, you're prostitutes, and you know, one girl I saw, you know, I'm in the middle of discussing the schools bill. It's all about, you know, young people not going into school and so on, and you know, who's not going to school. Some young 14-year-old girl kicked out of school and given a lecture by her teacher. This is in the report. Given a lecture by a teacher about she shouldn't sleep around because she got pregnant when she was 14. She was bloody raped, right? And part of this whole thing, and she, you know, this is, as you say, victim blaming, phrases that you kind of like I steer away from in many instances. But anyway, maybe there are things to be learned. Maybe there are things to be said. But we're not having the conversation. So these inquiries come out and that sort of disappears.
And it's all linked as well, isn't it? So this idea of, you know, you're not allowed to say this or you're not allowed to use that is not a million miles away from people saying you're not allowed to use the word woman. You know, you're not completely related. You're not allowed. You can't have freedom of speech because freedom of speech is dangerous. All of these things are related, and ultimately it comes back to open freedom of expression and the freedom to express fear and anger. I'm not suggesting that we should all go on the rampage, but any society that can't express anger at atrocity is a society that's really in trouble.
But don't you think that, Philip, that's the thing, and this relates us back to the leadership election of the Conservative Party. This has not been a very major issue. I mean, the Telford issue has come out in the middle of a Conservative Party leadership election, and I don't know that Kemi's mentioned it, but you know, it's like it's not. You'd think that somebody would say, "I just want to now deplore." You know, I mean, you know, even if it was like a nod to it. What I think happens is, from the point of view of British voters and the British public, is they're looking on and thinking, those I've overemphasised treating the young women like trash, but you're treating the whole of the electorate as though they don't count. If things which people say, well, don't you think we could mention this, please? So people are now absolutely furious and believe there's a conspiracy to not discuss the grooming scandals.
And that's actually an abuse of power, because like you were saying with this thread, demonstrating, you know, just the scale of the problem, the amount of areas that this has been going on.
This is a tweet that I was talking about before, that someone had said, let's put this in context because it's happened in all of these cities. And this thread goes, I've retweeted it myself, it goes on and on and on and on and on, and it's absolutely devastating. It's a devastating indictment
huge number of cities that we've forgotten, and you were saying Yeovil and so on.
I'm afraid we're going to have to wrap up because we've run over time, but thank you so much, Claire. Thank you, Philip, and thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, comment below, and we'll see you next time on Newspeak.
Hello. If you're enjoying the New Culture Forum channel and you believe in our mission, may I invite you to join our membership scheme at the link below or on our website, newcultureforum.org.uk. Our work is more important now than ever, and we have great plans ahead for the future, but we can't do it without your support. From as little as £3 per month, you can help ensure that we continue on our mission. As a member, you'll receive a range of benefits, including access to exclusive content, invitations to our private events, including here at our studios, free copies of our books, and much, much more, including, of course, our famous NCF mug. If you aren't able to become a member, then please help us by clicking this button and subscribing to our channel. It's completely free. Just remember to also click the bell icon so that you can get notifications when we post new videos. Thank you.